you are a stubborn, hard-headed individual like myself, then this episode is for you. Happy Monday. Hope that you are doing well. Welcome to the Risen Fallen podcast. I'm your host, Mark Henriksen. We try and stick to self-development, mental health type topics. Sometimes I get a little bit off topic. Thank you for your patience. And so, happy Monday. I hope you guys are doing well. This episode is pre-recorded. It is, I'm recording this one a week in advance. It is Sunday, October 6th. And so this one's going to come out, I guess, on the 14th. And so, happy Monday. The reason I'm pre-recording this right now is because next weekend, when I normally do my podcast work, I'll be spending some time with family, going and doing a little chilling out with Teddy and her family at the cabin, and yeah, just trying to kick back. I'll let you guys know. Maybe we'll do some filming and do some stuff on YouTube for that. But yeah, I'm planning on just chilling out next weekend, and so I'm doing more work this weekend and making sure that we get some episodes out for you guys. But like I said, if you're a stubborn individual, hard-headed guy or girl, like me, the hard-headed part, then this episode is for you. Recently, I have, sorry, I'm playing with my keys. Probably not the best thing to do during a podcast. I don't know if you guys can hear that on the episode, on the audio version, but yeah, I'll stop that. I'll cut that out. Maybe I'll find something else to play with or hang on to. Let's play with this pen for now. Let's take a sip of tea, actually. Alrighty. So, yesterday, so that was the beginning of October 5th, I dislocated my shoulder again. That's the third time in the last 2 years. 2 out of 3 of those times, I had to reset my shoulder like myself or with someone else's help. And then yesterday when it came out, it was just like kind of, it popped out, and then, it ended up just like sucking itself back in. I don't know. It sounded really gross. I literally heard it happen, and yeah, it was disgusting. And so the reason I bring that up is because I've dislocated my shoulder probably 5 times now in my life. It started happening in grade 12, and I've always kind of had like a little bit of an injury or an ongoing injury with my shoulder. And in the last 2 years, training a lot more jiu-jitsu, I've bunged it up a lot more. I've done a little bit more damage to it. And so the reason that I bring this up is because I am somebody who will hard-headedly and stubbornly just basically encounter the same problem over and over and over again. And just be like, yeah, it's just, the way that it's supposed to go. And it's just, I've always had shoulder injuries. I've always had this type of issue in my life. And it's just always going to be that way. And so I've always just kind of like, I'm just going to mitigate the issue, mitigate the risk. And this is something I talked recently to Patrick with about knees and shoulders in sports. Patrick Koo, shout out to Patrick. But at some point, you have to really ask yourself, whether it's a physical injury, a mental injury, an emotional injury, whatever it could be, eventually you have to ask yourself, like, when is enough enough? When am I going to actually deal with this problem? There's so many of us, we walk around in life, like waking up every single day, having to go to a job that fucking causes us pain or stress or whatever it is. Having to do things in life that we fucking hate doing, or just dealing with like circumstances in life, like whether it's like maybe the way that you look at yourself in the mirror and your physical appearance, your fitness level, what you eat, the way that you actually feel like on a day-to-day basis. Like, are you in physical pain? That's what I've been dealing with recently, like physical pain that's hindering your lifestyle. These types of uncomfortabilities, like, when is enough going to be enough? When are you going to actually ask yourself, when am I going to have to deal with this fucking problem? Like, when am I actually going to have to address this? How long can you really put it off before it starts to make your life completely uncontrollable or completely, you're not able to enjoy the things that you'd actually like to enjoy. It's starting to hinder your life. It's starting to hinder your enjoyment of your life and how much you're able to flourish. It's one of those things where, like in the 12-step program, one of the first things that you kind of have to admit, or you have to think about, or you have to review is the idea that your life has become unmanageable. It's becoming a little bit more less easy for you to manage on a day-to-day basis, and starting to impact not just your life, but maybe the lives of people around you, and you can see. I guess maybe you can't, if you're as stubborn and hard-headed as me, maybe you can't see how these things are actually starting to impact your life and the people around you. And I know for myself, it's been kind of one of those things where now I'm starting to look at it from a perspective of like, if I don't address this, like, where is it going to go? And I think that this is a useful, like, kind of thinking pattern or thinking technique or a meditation to have in your life, is to think about, like, if I don't address this problem, this thing that kind of bothers me right now, it's maybe a 5% annoyance or a 10% annoyance. But if I don't address it, where the fuck does this go? 5 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, like, what does it actually look like? And I know for myself, because I am an active person, a lot of things that I do are obviously very active, from what I do for work to what I do for fun and what I do for taking care of myself. All of those things require my body to be moving properly and comfortably. And so I ask myself this, and this is something that I really had to humble myself for, is like, if I really don't address this issue that's going on with my shoulder, like, what does this look like in 5 years? What does this look like when I'm in my 40s, when I'm in my 50s, when I'm in my 60s? Like, am I going to be able to not wipe my ass? Am I not going to be able, and those things, for me, it's like, I'd rather address this now while I'm still in my 20s and when I'm still able to recover from, maybe going down the routes of like, how do I address this? Because a lot of the time, obviously with like a physical injury, it's kind of a little bit more, I don't know what the word is, but it's kind of just like black and white. It's like, hey, this is the way you deal with it, whether it's a surgery or physio, whatever it is. Like, we all, have a pretty decent understanding when it comes to physical injuries. Like, hey, this is the issue. This is how you fix it. But in so many other ways of our lives, it's like, how do we even address this? And so I guess, it's going to be so unique to your situation. But I guess the real question that I had to ask myself this weekend was like, how long are you going to sit in this same situation in your life over and over and over and over again, and have this physical or emotional or spiritual pain in your body or in your mind, in your heart, whatever? How long are you going to sit with that and until you're actually going to do something to change? Because you can sit there and you can kind of be a victim in your own head, or you can actually complain to other people, or you can actually think of like, okay, I'm having this situation over and over and over again in my life. Maybe it's time to take some responsibility for it. Like, maybe there's something more I could do. And obviously looking at like a physical injury, like something like a dislocating shoulder, or like some knee pain or whatever it could be, it's pretty obvious. It's like, hey, I know what's damaging it, and I know kind of what I can do to mitigate this. I kind of know the steps of like, okay, for me, it was like basically schedule a doctor's appointment to get an MRI to take a look at my rotator cuff or whatever. Just some of you smart people will understand that a lot more. But basically just like look at my labrum and see how that goes. But, if the problem is something else, like if it's like a financial thing, if it's like a, like a body image thing, if it's like a, career thing, if it's, anything else, then it's a lot less direct of like, here's how it's solved. And so you kind of have to ask yourself, first off, do I have this fucking problem? Can you honestly look at your life and ask yourself, like, do I have this fucking problem? Have I had this problem occur before? what are the ways that I've overcome this in the past? And actually ask yourself this, because sometimes we convince ourselves, oh, I did it this way because that's what we want to do because we're stuck in our comfort zone. But ask yourself, like, really, did it work? Are you still where you wanted to be? Like, is it, and you can make excuses for yourself like, oh, this is what worked for me last time. And this is, but ask yourself truly, is this going to put me in a better position? Is this actually going to help solve my problem? Because you don't want to gaslight yourself, make all that effort, and then not actually get closer to where you want to be, and then feel like, what the fuck, why aren't I getting closer? I feel like a failure, and it becomes redundant. So actually ask yourself, and hey, if you haven't overcome a situation like this in the past, reach out to people that have. Look up, in today's day and age, it's like every fucking problem that you've faced in your life that you're facing right now, I can guarantee you people have overcome that. People probably are going through it right now. People are probably, you could hear about people's mistakes. You could hear about people's victories. You could hear about different perspectives. Google it, YouTube it, search up podcasts, like things like that. Like there's so many different things, but you really just have to address what your problem is. And so maybe it's not a physical injury. Maybe it's not a spiritual thing. Maybe it's an emotional scar that you have. Maybe, whatever it could be. But if it's been reoccurring in your life, time after time or with different people, and you're like, I keep having this issue with so many different people. Like, it's like kind of time to ask yourself, like, when should I address this? And more than likely, it's right fucking now. So I don't know what it is that you have to address. I know that for myself, this is just scratching the surface. I've got a lot more to work on, but this feels like the most urgent thing right now. And so that's what the way that I had to humble myself this week and start to work towards that. And just because obviously with when you start to use your foresight and you start to use this technique of like looking 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road, aging and getting old sucks as is. Like, I talk to people that take care of their bodies and exercise and eat well. And even as they get into their 70s and 80s, like even the people that do their utmost still are like, aging fucking sucks. And so you really have to ask yourself, do you want to be one of those people that struggles to move around? And, I'm not fucking trying to judge or shame anybody, but really ask yourself, where do you want to be when you're in your 50s and your 60s and your 70s and your 80s? Do you want to be able to move properly? Do you want to fucking feel comfortable? Do you want to find clothing that fits you? Do you want to, be able to still go out and feel comfortable jumping on the beach when you're in your 50s and 60s? Do you even feel that way now? Like, there's so many millions of questions we can ask ourselves, because at the end of the day, we all have something that is nagging us. Probably more than one thing. It's probably something physical, like an injury, an old injury. But it's obviously we've got those other things as well that are injuries emotionally or spiritually or any other way as well. So I don't know. Just kind of take inventory. Take a look at your life. Take a look at yourself right now and ask yourself, like, where have I been seeing the same problem occur over and over and over and over and over again? And when am I actually going to admit that I have this issue and start to work towards fixing it? And it's a scary, shitty process. It's uncomfortable, but it's also like, it's kind of one of the only decisions you have to make. Like, making that decision of like, yeah, I know I have an issue, but I'm going to start working towards fixing it now is really the only thing that can get you out of it. And just making that kind of decision for yourself is the first step to overcoming it. It's the only way to get out. So like, if it feels like you're lost in this like fucking dark ass tunnel, like that's like you getting your flashlight. That's like you just being able to see the problem that lies ahead. And so on that note, I think that's a beautiful place to wrap this up. Quick little episode today. Happy Monday. See you guys next week. Much love. Peace out. Love you all. Bye.